this talk with Erica Stocking. My name is Amanda Card, and I'm a Vancouver Public Library Board Trustee. And I also was lucky enough to be on the selection panel that shortlisted and interviewed for this Public Art Commission. And I'd like to begin this evening by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Vancouver Public Library's newest branch, aʔmat, Strathcona, is expected to open in early fall 2016, right around the corner here. The new building at 730 East Hastings is a joint initiative with the City of Vancouver and the YWCA Metro Vancouver that features a branch library, community and family programming, and affordable housing for low-income single mothers and their children. The library branch will be an estimated about 11,000 square feet, one of the largest branches in the whole library system, and will feature diverse public spaces, including a digital creation space, akin to the Inspiration Lab at the Central, flexible meeting, programming, and community gathering spaces, and a diverse collection of books, DVDs, magazines, and newspapers in English and other languages. aʔmat Strathcona is the first major civic building to have an Aboriginal name. aʔmat means we are one in the Hunkamnub language. Apologies for that one. The name recognizes and honors the Coast Salish people and their traditional unceded territories, while also reflecting the neighborhood's historical city name, Strathcona. And we've been really encouraged as trustees to really embrace this new library and its name. So I just wanted to maybe practice it once with everyone here. So the name is aʔmat. So great. And I want to now introduce Karen Henry, who is the City of Vancouver Public Arts Program.
Thank you. I also just want to welcome you here, and really pleased to see people coming out on this rainy night. This is the 25th anniversary of the Public Art Program, and it's been really a pleasure to be able to partner with the library. And over the course of the program, we've partnered with a number of city departments and with community groups and with private developers, and produced more than 250 works over 25 years. So it's quite an accomplishment, and it's really a thrill to be part of that process. And it's been really great to be part of this opportunity to do the entranceway of the aʔmat Strathcona Branch Library. In the fall, we put out an open call to artists from the area to apply for the opportunity, and had a selection process. And the process has been pretty much on a fairly intensive timeline since then, because we have to have the work produced by the summer. So that's pretty fast for a piece of public art. The opportunity is for the entranceway of the library, and we actually don't have a good picture that would really show you what that is. I don't know if Erica, if you have one in your presentation or not. No. But this is a little bit of an illusion when you see the entrance there, because you enter from the street, but then there is an entranceway inside that's the entrance to the library, and that's where the artwork will be. The opportunity is really to treat that entranceway as an artwork, and so hopefully it's something you'll be enjoying over the long term. What else? We're also doing a filming of this event tonight for the City of Vancouver through Periscope, which is a live streaming video opportunity. So do let us know if you don't want to get captured by the camera, but it is that cell phone right there. So at least you'll know how to stay behind it. And it is being live streamed now, and it will be on YouTube, and you can access it through social media tomorrow or sometime soon. I think that's about it, except for introducing Erica. The order of the evening is basically to, Erica will give you a little bit of a background on her practice and how she's been thinking about this opportunity. It is in the concept development stage, and so it's an opportunity for her to let you know how she's thinking, and also to hear some of your stories and experiences of the library in this place. So, and after that, after her presentation, you can ask questions, and because there are not a lot of us, we can keep everything quite casual, and there is tea and cookies, and you can stick around and talk for a while afterwards if you'd like as well. I think that's it, except for welcoming Erica. Erica has two other public art projects that you should know about. One is called Yellow Fence, and that's up on the SFU campus on Burnaby Mountain. And the other one is the geyser for Hillcrest Park. And I was privileged to work with Erica and Vanessa Kwan to do that piece, and I apologize, I forgot to bring brochures tonight. But it's really quite a wonderful piece as well, so I hope you have an opportunity to experience that and see it at some point. Erica was also honored in 2009 for the Mayor's Arts Awards as the emerging artist in public art. And as you can see, she's done a few since then. So, Erica, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for taking the time to come out tonight. Rainy and people are sick, and it's nice to have the opportunity to present to you. So yeah, like Karen said, I'm going to basically give you a little bit of a background on my practice, and then some of the ideas. Oh yeah, some of the ideas that are informing how I'm approaching the project. And I'm starting with this image, which is the current library. And I guess when I saw the call, it was kind of an opportunity that I couldn't really pass up, because it's in the community that I'm a part of, and for public artwork that is my job, and I thought this isn't going to come around very often. So I'm thrilled to have this opportunity. I guess I just wanted to say thank you for that. So this is the current entrance. It's set in the school, if you're not familiar with it. And I meet my daughter Annabelle, who's sitting here in the front row, with Margie, my other daughter, every day after school. And we meet right in this entrance. And so that's kind of, we live down the street. The entrance also for me goes back to this moment in my own childhood, where I remember being picked up at the library, and the library was this meeting place where I would be waiting for my family to come and pick me up, and I spent a lot of time sitting and waiting in this kind of glass vestibule area, waiting. And there's a kind of ownership that I felt over that. I would have my snack, I would do my homework, and so when this opportunity came up, I really was thinking about that moment of sitting in this area, and the sense that I had as a child of this sense of ownership in this space. And I think it's one of the beautiful things that a public library offers, which is this interior public space that everyone is allowed some sort of claim on. So that's one of the things that's influencing. The other thing is that it's a threshold space, and what I'm going to do now is just show you some of my past work. I'm going to go way back to when I graduated school, and kind of bring up how this threshold space is, because it continually coming up in my work. Sorry, I'm just realizing so this is my grad piece. I graduated from Emily Carr, and it's really brought this. I'm going to show you kind of how sculpture. My interest is in sculpture and objects and forms and the things that we bring to that, and kind of show you how that's brought me to working in public space. So this is Gingerbread Wall, and there's an existing window in this corner of the gallery, and what I did was basically drywall it in, but with gingerbread and icing. So this is icing that you're seeing, and you had to go outside the gallery to see the other side, which is gingerbread, made up of sheets of gingerbread. And for me, it was really this moment of thinking about sculpture and the potential sculpture has to have different views, that you can't take the whole thing in all at once from your own position. So in order to engage with it, you have to move around and actually act in the world. And this is kind of a key piece in how I'm thinking about work. This was shortly after I graduated, and it's called Hotel Room. And I had the opportunity to make an artwork for basically a wall in a hotel lobby. And what I did was actually build the artwork behind the gallery wall. And it was a functioning 3-foot wide hotel room that was furnished with objects that I had taken from walks in different hotels. And I put this in because it's got this quality of thinking about a very small space and how that small space can be activated with objects that have been brought in. This is about a year later. This is at ArtSpeak in Gastown, and that's using the windows of the gallery, and the kind of situation of the gallery was closed for the summer. So just using the available kind of context to create a work, and it was basically a storefront full of objects that had been, what are you guys doing? Running in and out, huh? You recognize these, right? They're objects made with bits that I had collected through walking through the city. So you see some feathers, lots of sticks, bits of glass, and it was called Objects to Move the Assemblage Point and Other Tools. And I was reading Carlos Castaneda books at the time and thinking about how our world is assembled and how objects facilitate that. And so thinking about these objects, I was thinking of them as being kind of theatrical objects, things that kind of carry a narrative with them and allow for a different narrative to happen. This is work shortly after that. It was called Proscenium Home, and it's really fleshing out that idea that the in-between space is a space to be activated, and it was basically a room furnished with things on loan from the Sears department store that's located across the street, and then the door's locked, and so you can't actually go into it inside the gallery. Or yeah, inside the gallery is just a locked door, and then you have to, again, like the Gingerbread Wall, go outside the gallery to see into the work. And that's another work thinking about that. A window space and what the potential of that space is to narrate a larger situation. This is built into a skylight, and I took drywall bits from the development on one side of the gallery and broken glass from a demolition site on the other side, and put them together to kind of make this filtered light, I guess, that carries some of that feeling through. And around that time was when I made the first public artwork. This was Yellow Fence that Karen mentioned earlier. And it was really that moment of articulating what the divide between public and private spaces. So there were a set of gates that, it was for public artwork, but they were on private, they were private gates. So I looked at the history of, on that side, of what's the divide between public and private space. And it was really that yellow construction fence. The yellow construction fence that enclosed the construction site was that divide between public and private space. So I thought of the final gates as just it being an extension of that. And so the first gate is an exact replica of the construction fence, and then it kind of evolved into a different design. And this is one, there's 14 gates, this is the middle one. And it becomes increasingly more abstract. And on the 14th gate, the gate looks kind of like a spiderwebby kind of design, but then when the gates opened and that boundary of access between public and private spaces broken by the opening of the gate, the shadow cast, or if you looked at it on an angle, actually created that same grid. It's a bit tricky to say, but the reason why that was possible to do was because there was actually a 2.5-inch depth to the gate. And I bring this up because I think it's influencing how I'm approaching the door at the library, because the door has, we think of it as being a flat space, but it actually has a depth to it. So the work that I'm thinking of will really play with that small depth there. This is another public artwork, Geyser for Hillcrest Park, that was in collaboration with Vanessa Kwan. The Hillcrest Geyser, it's basically responding to some of the things that are already existing on the site. And I think one of the things about public art, making public art, and I should say, I don't think I said at the beginning, that what I'm showing you is kind of a thread of part of my practice, where sculpture, thinking about sculpture within a public realm. And some of the responsibilities of doing that, I think, are paying attention to the community that's around and the community that's existing there. And with Hillcrest Geyser, we were looking at the community center that it's for, and how water is already present on the site. So there's the swimming pool, there's the skating rink on one side, and then there were these kind of rumblings of oral histories that there had been water running through the site. And so we were basically picking up on that, and I think another thing's spilled there. Speaking of water, the water on the site, what name is that? Right, so that the artwork, the geyser, was pulling up, using what's already there to kind of engage in the community. I had another one in here. Anyhow, it showed a picture of kids playing around it. So the geyser is hooked up to the gray water system in the building, so that it only goes off when the gray water system needs potable water. So it goes off periodically. It's kind of got a life of its own, and I like that the work has the potential to surprise. You don't know when you go by whether it's going to be going off, what it is. It's kind of makes sense within the fabric of the landscape, but then it's got a little kind of tweak that doesn't make sense. Okay, it gives you a little visual picture of my past work. So to get to the current kind of context, this is for those of you, probably a lot of you have been to our current Strathcona branch library. If not, this is a view coming into the library from the community center. And one of the things that I love about the library is that it's nestled within the community, that it's within the school, that it's within the community center. And I think this was a really important thing in considering how the artwork what the artwork can carry through into the new location. And actually, I was talking to Margot, who's been at this library for a long time, and in our conversation, she was saying, it's all about the kids. Like, it's in the school. There's such a lively child aspect to the library that was something that I felt was really important to carry through. So I was quite excited to find out that the new library is going to be kind of nestled within the YWCA development, which is single mothers with children. So I like to think of that element in it. I've been thinking about the library as, and I mentioned this earlier, as an extension of home, and I think it's one of the first places that a young child feels safe in, has some sort of autonomy within, and I think it's interesting how it's tied into the development of an imagination and how libraries kind of open up the world. So I'm thinking about it opening up the world to a small child physically, but also in terms of what that space of imagination and what you're introduced to. I think of a lot of moments of this kind of quiet, introspective discovery that you have. You have all of these books available to discover things that you would not know otherwise. So, kind of within that, it's a finding who. It's a moment of finding who you are in the world. And I'll just back up there. You notice there's this is the kind of right in front of the school office, and so the library is over here. This is the staff room, and these are past photos of each of the school years, and then the school office is right there. And Annabelle and Margie, when I pick them up at this spot every day, they have a little habit of, when we notice the school photos, pointing out, kind of recognizing themselves and friends. And then, so, Annabelle's pointing to a friend up there, there's Margie, and this, I think it's this desire to see yourself, and to see yourself as part of a larger community, and to recognize yourself within that community. And the aʔmats, I think the sentiment of that, the we are one, is a beautiful sentiment to have. But the question is how, what is that group? Like here we've got this large school group that encompasses a kind of complicated variety of different economic and social backgrounds, and I think that's one of the great things about Strathcona, but also probably one of the hardest things, or one of the things that I've thought the most about in terms of how to approach the artwork. This, Annabelle, I don't know if you remember this. This is at this Capilano Suspension Bridge. And we had, it was on a school trip with them. And there's this moment that I keep on going back to where there's a tour guide from Australia who's telling us about the poles and telling us stories, and one of Annabelle's classmates kept on interrupting him and talking over him as she was pointing out, she was like, oh, there's the wolf clan and this, and she's just kind of talking right over top of him, kind of claiming all these animals on the pole for her, and then some other classmates chimed in, and I thought, there's this wanting to recognize yourself in your surroundings, and one of the, but as soon as you identify certain cultural groups or symbolic representations, you automatically, without meaning to, exclude other people as well. And this is a kind of a key. How do you recognize togetherness and separateness at the same time? It's kind of contradictory. So I started thinking about animals because of this. And this is part of the work, in my work I've done for a number of years. I've collaborated with a group called Norma. We've done lots of performances. This is our final performance actually 2 years ago, where we're dressed up as Andrew Lloyd Webber cats, and we're performing YouTube cat videos, all the actions from it. And this is the finale, where we sang one rendition of Memories. And I go to this because we're dressed up as cats, which is kind of an awkward, kind of perverse or absurd thing it felt like to do. And around the same time, it was Halloween and I was dressed up as a pig, but all I had was a pig nose on. And I noticed people's reactions to me kind of kept on going in and out of recognizing, not seeing the pig nose, and then all of a sudden focusing in on the pig nose and kind of being taken aback. And it's this moment of thinking of ourselves as animals. And so I started to focus on this idea that we all are animals. How do we identify as a species that we are one is more of perhaps in seeing ourselves in relation to animals, we can understand ourselves as together. And I was thinking about this, it's a study that had been done about bullying in the schoolyards, and it found that in the more present flora and fauna was in the schoolyards, the bullying instances went down, and that's related to, I guess, this idea that if you can see yourselves, you have an innate need to other people, and if we can other something that identifies us all as humans, then it kind of automatically positions us together. But then the question was, okay, so I'm going to focus on animals for the artwork, but what kind of animals? So we've got, what do I pull? Lions, tigers. What relationship does that have? Do I go to the Chinese zodiac? And I started looking at animals that are within the community. So we've got, this is the eagles. You guys need to come up and present with me because I'm getting distracted. Very distracted, I'm sorry. So we've got the eagles in Strathcona, which I think are significant to eagles. This is a squirrel outside of our house that I tend to watch a lot. So lots of black squirrels. There's a flicker, one of the woodpeckers that lives somewhere along Tender Street. So I've started collaging together all the different animals that I think of in the neighborhood, and what I'd like to hear from people as well, if there's any significant animals from the neighborhood that you kind of identify with. Eagles, coyotes, raccoons, pigeons, and I think I like that in looking at it, we'll all bring our own associations, and they even have cultural associations, personal associations, and geographical associations too. It locates us in a certain area. And this is a picture of myself that I've taken that I continually go back to, and it sums up for me how form happens. So I think of how we can define form is through an emanation or a reflection, and also an absence. And defining ourselves in a negation. So I think we can understand ourselves altogether as one thing because we're not something else. So, you know, and I think with animals it's kind of interesting because we can understand ourselves all as animals, but then we can understand ourselves all as humans because we're not animals. This is a photo of looking down and seeing a reflection, and I came across this idea that a reflection in a mirror, before mirrors, we would have only seen ourselves reflected on a horizontal surface, and in order to do that, you have to be looking down, and when you start to look down, you automatically become prone, and that puts you in this physical kind of animal position. I'm going to the myth of Narcissus, looking down. And I've been reading some stuff on soul and this kind of heaviness and weight of soul, and these writings of Thomas More. He's suggesting that the impulse, narcissism, this impulse to see yourself and to recognize yourself and to look at yourself and to kind of be absorbed by yourself, which I think we have in this kind of constant taking selfies and documenting ourselves. Instead of it being a bad thing, to think about what that soulful kind of quality is, which is a wanting to be recognized, I think, but again, it's like this being in that animal position. So I'm like understanding ourselves as animal. Just to back up and go to the architectural kind of context of the door, I've been looking at some bronze doors and thinking about bronze as flesh, and an architectural kind of storytelling. Let me show you a few examples. They're often like carved in relief. And there's a weight to bronze life that I think has some of that heavy quality. And just thinking about architectural storytelling and relief as storytelling, and how narratives were communicated in visual form through architecture. And I think the door opportunity has that potential, and that's what I wanted to pick up on. So cool. And this relation to pictographs, so I'm also thinking about through pre-verbal, pre-written kind of language. Mark making, it's the cuneiform, and there's this kind of texture and communicating through. I'm not sure if people are familiar or not with it, but there was a traveling exhibition called Gods in Color that was looking at Greek sculptures and how they were actually polychromed. We often think about them as being purely form. It's an example of it. And in fact, they had been fully covered in patterns and bright colors. Some other examples of that. I was thinking about some of the animal forms. And that's what the color would have been. So a huge difference, and that was really influencing the last body of work that I did back in the summer, where I had taken all of these family videos, compiled them, and then pulled images out of those family videos and created them. This is acrylic paint on canvas. And so thinking about painting and sculpture and how those two things go together, and forms as well, this kind of referencing the body without there being one. So that color, thinking within the neighborhood, this color and form that's already present here, I keep gravitating towards these kind of colors that actually remind me a lot of the colors that you see in that exhibition, Gods in Color, the polychrome sculptures. There's a lot of murals in the neighborhood around the library. Just looking at, there's a kind of a particular flatness and kind of impulse to tell stories through form. In particular, this is just on the other side of the wall, I realized. Which is yeah, so there's this kind of certain color combinations and that impulse to do murals that it has some link to the architectural reliefs. This is in the library, in the stairwell behind the library. Yeah, and then just to go back to this idea of wanting to recognize yourself. So how can the work that I make have that quality of being able to recognize yourself? We talk about recognizing yourself as animal, but what about actually seeing yourself? And I was thinking about these head in the hole photo boards. And I think it's got some of that narcissism quality to it as well. And this is it's funny, I was trying to find the background to how did these things come up, and the best I've found so far is that they somehow started at the seaside. These are some of the early ones you'd see. And I just pulled out a quick image search of animals, those animals. And it's funny that the hole is kind of arbitrary. This last one shows, they're really, the hole for the starfish doesn't line up, and it's really just that space to put yourself, to document yourself. And then, so this is actually on the site, on the construction site, and looking through to the actual spot where the door will be. And go back there for a second. So I always like to look for, maybe I'm superstitious, but it's like you follow along a thought and kind of set up these different things that I'm interested in, and then it's like looking for confirmation on the site for the way to actually go, and the moment looking through going like, oh, the construction hoarding actually has a head in the hole photo board looking into the library space. It's just kind of this moment of going, that's the direction. And so that, when you look into that space and with the head in the hole photo boards, you're having a picture taken of yourself. And I wanted to look at how that act of putting your face in to be seen can become something interior. How can, within a very small space, how can you have an experience of being interior within yourself, within a small space? And this is taken in a subway, and it's always fascinated me how reflections create a whole other world on the other side, which isn't actually there, it's just what we're seeing, and it's really this act of seeing, which is quite magical for me, and I'm always amazed by it. One of the things go back there for a second. One of the things that I've always been taken with reflection is that to see yourself in a reflection, you're only ever half the size of what you are. So your head in a reflection is always only half the size because what you're seeing is halfway between you in that space. And some of my past work has kind of played with that. So this is a work from 2010 where I created basically a half-size living room under the stairs at the Contemporary Art Gallery using found materials like vacuum filter, the donation box, a moving blanket, a mop head. That shows you. Like that's the mop head, that's the donation box, a funnel. And that work kind of influenced a body of work that I've been doing on an ongoing basis, which is materials from my home turned into objects for my home. So that's my bed, a divider screen, a rug made from our old clothes. And then it's actually photographed on the Strathcona school stage. And then the final work, which doesn't exist as a final work yet, but it's half the size. So this idea, kind of playing with the idea that our experience is always kind of halfway. To see our own experiences kind of at half-sized, or because of a reflection, it has to be half-sized. And I wanted to leave on that note this thinking about books and that kind of in that thin space of books that we see ourselves in kind of at a different scale. And so the work for the library is we'll kind of pull all these things together in that way. And that's it. Thank you, and I apologize for my distracted nature. It's one of the challenges and joys of trying to do a number of things. So if there's any questions.
So what's the medium you're thinking of?
Well, what I'm thinking, I can describe what I'm thinking of. What I'm thinking of is to create a bronze door that's inspired by Head in the Hole photo boards. And then sitting against what's it called? A two-way mirror. A two-way mirror has the same quality as that inside the subway, where you're, depending on how close you are, you're either only seeing one space or you're seeing two spaces laid up against each other. So I'm imagining this, looking into that two-way mirror space. And color, lots of color inspired by, the murals, and thinking about the bronze, painted bronze. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes.
So are the animals you're thinking of all sort of non-domesticated animals?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because some of the animals most of the animals you see are cats and dogs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted them to be wild animals. Yeah. And there's a lot of small birds in the neighborhood as well, and I didn't have that in the picture, but I'd be pulling out a lot of those. Hey.
Hey, this is I was just thinking when you were showing the animals that in September, October, there was an owl that was sleeping in the tree, one of the trees right by the playground in the yard, and it caused so much excitement, and teachers brought their classes down from out of the school building so
I wonder if anyone got a picture of that, because that would be.
Somebody went up for sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, because those are the kind of things that I want to, to be in there.
I know you have a squirrel already, but last spring a squirrel got into the library. And
Really?
The principal tried to get a picture of it, but it was too fast for her. I was terrified. But it was, yeah.
Do you know what kind of squirrel it was? This is something that, there's, I mostly see black squirrels, but,
You do mostly see black squirrels. I think it was a black squirrel.
Yeah,
I saw it, but it was so fast. Yeah.
And my 4-year-old swears that there's an owl always in the neighborhood, and he won't accept that it's a morning dove. But it's the sound so it's the soundtrack for the morning. But it's actually it doesn't make that sound in the morning, so it's just it doesn't resonate with him. It doesn't make sense to him that it's called a morning dove, but it happens like in the afternoon or evening. And it sounds too much like an owl, and he wants it to be an owl. But there are morning doves, we hear them.
Right.
I don't think we see them ever. But
I just want to write these down, so. Good morning. Yeah, because I feel like it's quite localized. Like we're just over, west of here, and the changes.
yeah.
So much.
Mini micro.
Yeah, micro. Yeah. There are for sure.
I am kind of glad you're not including rats, though.
I am going to include a rat.
You're going to include a rat.
Well, one of the things.
Hey, it's clear.
Yeah, and I was thinking, with the rat, too, and to go back to kind of what I was saying earlier about how do you represent, different cultures, the rat is within the Chinese zodiac,
True.
too, so that, and, I think of an eagle as associating it with Italian, and then there's the coyote, with Aboriginal kind of stories, and so I think through just acknowledging that fauna that's here, it will have ties to all the different cultures without us even realizing or intending it. It's like that space to claim, possibility to claim it on a number of different, any number of levels. You don't want to rat though. Kind of fast over
One
that.
of the things you said earlier in the week when you were sharing the concept was that animals represent this particular moment in time. So,
Right.
As the neighborhood changes and animals disappear or new animals come in, then that door will represent that particular moment in time.
Yeah, it will. That it can be kind of within the architecture of this moment in time. And then the other thing with the head in the hole photo boards that we were talking about as well, with time. Well, I guess before I go into that though, to elaborate on that there will be, the eagles. Will they always be here? Will there be more? One of the things actually I was thinking of was seals as well from the harbor. I have seen them before. I haven't recently. Will we? Yeah. And will that would be an example of
recently,
whales
down
too.
for inlet up Indian Arm recently.
Right.
Something this past summer. So
Right.
you can just keep going. When we sound
Yeah.
kind of
My
in the
head's
neighborhood.
starting.
Streams.
But to pick up on that kind of concept of time too, is this how people can grow with the artwork, and the head in the hole photo board kind of makes this, the hole's down here, you can only see it down here, and if it's up here, you have to get big enough to see that. So I think with what I set up, it's like a form that that can change, and you can kind of measure yourself up against as well. I'm wishing I had a picture of it. So I was going past what I was supposed to present.
I think it's really brilliant. I don't know whether it was the soundtrack here. It was just all different
Of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and then and we love the whole overboard things, but my kid's favorite Christmas thing is elf yourself. Do your kids do elf yourself?
No.
Oh my god, you have to
I don't know.
Google it after. It's like, it's from grandma, right? She sent it one Christmas and now it's like the favorite Christmas activity. So it's like the new generation's head in the symbols.
Oh.
So you take a picture and it's the elf and they dance.
Oh, no, I don't know that, but I was thinking about a Star Wars one that we have. That does that.
Lab, help yourself, with animals, and it was just like, I was kind of running away.
Yeah.
For a while, but it's pretty cool.
It's true, it is on a different, I'm assuming that happens on a phone or iPad or
It's like an
something
app or
like that.
something,
Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
yeah, it's that visual,
Yeah.
visual setting up of it. Yeah, I think the community, it's such a special like mix of different cultures and like qualities. I think it's like a qualia that I don't know, it's rich, like in a number of different ways, and yeah, I'm glad you feel do. Yeah, it's music going.
Any other questions, or shall we just have some cake and tea? Well, thank you very much. And